Tonight, stop focusing on whether they miss you. Stop wondering whether they are thinking about you, checking their phone, remembering old conversations, or replaying moments you shared together. Those questions seem important, but they distract you from something far more powerful. The real question is this: who are they feeling when they think of you? Because they are not responding to the old version of you anymore. They are not responding to the version that waited anxiously for validation. They are not responding to the version that measured love through text messages, attention, or reassurance. They are not responding to the version that secretly feared being forgotten, replaced, or abandoned. They feel the new version of you, the version that no longer chases, the version that no longer begs reality for confirmation, the version that no longer questions its value. Every time circumstances appear uncertain, and whether you realize it or not, that version communicates constantly. Close your eyes for a moment and become aware of something deeper than thought. Beneath every desire, beneath every fear, beneath every attachment, there exists an awareness that simply observes. It is quiet. It is still. It is unchanged by circumstances. That awareness is the source of every experience you have ever created. Most people spend their lives trying to change what they see while remaining the same within themselves. They try to attract different outcomes while carrying the same identity. They try to receive different treatment while secretly believing the same old stories. But reality does not respond to what you want. Reality responds to who you are. And people are no exception. What they feel is not your effort. What they feel is not your strategy. What they feel is not the number of messages you send or the amount of attention you give. They feel your state. They feel the version of you that exists beneath your words. Think about it. Have you ever suddenly thought about someone you haven't spoken to in years? No message arrived. No notification appeared. No logical trigger presented itself. Yet somehow they entered your awareness. Why? Because connection has always existed at a deeper level than physical interaction. Presence was never the cause. State was. And this changes everything. Because if people are responding to your state, then the question is no longer how do I make them think about me. The question becomes, who am I being when they think about me? Are you the version that feels forgotten? Or are you the version that feels unforgettable? Are you the version that worries about being replaced? Or are you the version that knows your presence leaves a lasting imprint? Are you the version that fears distance? Or are you the version that understands? True connection does not weaken with space or time. The answer to those questions determines the reality you experience. Because every relationship becomes a mirror of identity. If you see yourself as uncertain, you experience uncertainty. If you see yourself as temporary, you experience inconsistency. If you see yourself as difficult to choose, reality reflects hesitation. But something remarkable happens when you become the new version of yourself, not the version that pretends, not the version that forces positive thoughts, not the version that repeats affirmations while secretly doubting them. The genuine new version, the version that naturally expects to be valued, the version that naturally expects to be remembered, the version that naturally expects to be chosen. That version creates a completely different experience. Why? Because certainty has a presence. It carries a weight. It carries an emotional gravity that effort can never produce. Most people try to create attraction through action. The new version creates attraction through identity. The old version asks, how do I get their attention? The new version asks, why would I assume I don't already have it? The old version checks. The new version knows. The old version waits. The new version becomes. And that shift changes everything. Because the moment you stop trying to become important and start knowing that you are important, your energy changes. The moment you stop trying to create value and start recognizing your value, your state changes. The moment you stop seeking confirmation and start embodying certainty, your reality begins reorganizing around a completely different assumption. And people feel that, not because you are controlling them, not because you are influencing their free will, but because every human being responds to the version of you that you consistently present to life. So tonight, do not focus on whether they feel you. Focus on who they are feeling. Are they feeling the old version that feared loss? Or are they feeling the new version that knows its worth? Because once you become the new version consistently, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to be remembered, and yet you are remembered. You stop trying to be noticed, and yet you are noticed. You stop trying to create importance, and yet your importance becomes obvious, not because you forced it, not because you chased it, not because you manipulated circumstances, but because they feel the new version of you. And the new version of you does not seek confirmation. The new version of you is the confirmation. The new version of you does not need to announce itself. It does not walk into a room demanding attention. It does not spend its days wondering who is watching, who is interested, or who is pulling away. The new version of you simply exists, and that existence carries a power that cannot be manufactured. Think about the sun for a moment. The sun does not wake up every morning trying to convince the world that it shines. It does not struggle to prove its brightness. It does not chase the earth, begging it to notice its warmth. It simply shines because that is what it is. And because it remains true to itself, everything naturally responds. This is what happens when you fully embody your new identity. You stop trying to create an impression. You become the impression. You stop trying to be memorable. You become memorable. You stop trying to be desired. You become desirable, not through force, not through manipulation, not through effort, but through being. This is why the old version of you always felt exhausted. The old version believed that love had to be earned. The old version believed that attention had to be maintained. The old version believed that connection was fragile and could disappear at any moment. And because it believed that, it constantly worked. It monitored, it analyzed, it worried, it checked, it reacted. Every day became a battle against uncertainty. Every silence became a threat. Every delay became a problem. Every unanswered message became evidence. But the new version lives differently. The new version understands that what belongs naturally does not require constant maintenance. The new version understands that being valued is normal. Being remembered is normal. Being prioritized is normal. Being appreciated is normal. And because it feels normal, there is no emotional struggle surrounding it. That is why they feel the new version of you. Because people are always responding to what feels normal within you. If rejection feels normal, life finds ways to confirm it. If abandonment feels normal, life reflects it. If inconsistency feels normal, you continue experiencing it. But once being chosen becomes normal, once being respected becomes normal, once being loved becomes normal, reality begins to mirror those assumptions with remarkable precision. This is why inner work is not about forcing positive thoughts. It is about changing what feels natural, changing what feels expected, changing what feels ordinary. Because what feels ordinary eventually becomes reality. And here is something most people overlook. The new version of you is not waiting for them to change. The new version has already changed. That distinction is everything. The old version says, when they finally show up, I will feel secure. The new version says, I feel secure now. The old version says, when they choose me, I will feel valuable. The new version says, I'm valuable now. The old version says, when they commit, I will finally relax. The new version says, I'm already at peace. Can you see the difference? One version places power in the future. The other version brings power into the present. And only one of those creates transformation, because the future is always responding to the state you occupy now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. That is why the most powerful thing you can do is stop postponing your identity. Stop waiting for circumstances to give you permission to become who you want to be. Become that person first. Become the person who naturally expects good things. Become the person who naturally receives love. Become the person who naturally experiences consistency. Become the person who naturally feels important. And then watch what begins to happen. Not because reality suddenly changed, but because you did. And as this new identity stabilizes, something beautiful unfolds. You become less interested in controlling outcomes. You become less interested in predicting the future. You become less interested in decoding every little sign. Because certainty has replaced obsession. Confidence has replaced anxiety. Trust has replaced fear. And from that place, you discover a freedom that most people spend years searching for. You discover what it feels like to want something without needing it. To desire something without fearing its absence. To appreciate something without clinging to it. That freedom is magnetic, because freedom communicates abundance, and abundance attracts. Neediness repels. Fear contracts. Desperation chases, but certainty allows. And what is allowed has room to arrive. So, if you find yourself tempted to return to the old version, pause and remember this. The old version already created the old results. The old version already produced the confusion, the waiting, the questioning, the emotional ups and downs. Why return there? Why go back to an identity that never served you? You are not becoming someone new. You are uncovering who you were meant to be all along. A version of yourself that does not fear being forgotten. A version of yourself that does not compete for attention. A version of yourself that does not question its worth. A version of yourself that understands something profound. Your value does not increase when someone notices you. Your value does not decrease when someone overlooks you. Your value simply is. And once that truth settles deeply within you, everything changes. Because from that moment forward, people are no longer meeting the old version of you. They are meeting the new version. The version that is calm. The version that is centered. The version that is secure. The version that no longer searches for proof because it has become the proof. And that is the version they feel, even when you are silent, even when you are absent, even when you are doing absolutely nothing at all. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this transformation is that it no longer feels like a technique. It no longer feels like something you are trying to remember. It becomes the way you see yourself, the way you move through life, the way you interpret every experience. Because once identity changes, effort disappears. Think about something simple. You do not wake up every morning reminding yourself of your name. You do not spend the day convincing yourself of who you are. You know it. It is natural. It is automatic. It requires no maintenance. This is exactly how the new version of you begins to feel. At first, you practiced feeling chosen. Then you became familiar with feeling chosen. Eventually, you simply became the person who expects to be chosen. At first, you practiced feeling valued. Then you became comfortable feeling valued. Eventually, you became the person who naturally expects value. That is when the shift becomes permanent, not because you mastered a method, but because you changed your self-concept. And self-concept is what people feel, far more than your words, far more than your actions, far more than your appearance. People may not consciously understand what they are responding to, but they respond nonetheless. Some will call it confidence. Others will call it energy. Others will call it presence. Others will call it attraction. But what they are truly feeling is alignment. They are feeling a person who is no longer divided against themselves. A person who no longer wants one thing while believing another. A person who no longer says, "I am worthy," while secretly fearing they are not. A person who no longer hopes to be chosen while expecting rejection. The conflict has ended. And when inner conflict ends, outer conflict begins to disappear as well. This is why the new version of you feels different, not only to them, but to yourself. You wake up lighter. You think less about what is missing. You spend less time analyzing. You spend less time worrying. Not because you are forcing positivity, but because the emotional addiction to uncertainty has finally lost its grip. You are no longer feeding it. And what is not fed eventually fades. Many people spend years trying to change the outside world while refusing to release old identities. They want new relationships with old fears, new outcomes with old assumptions, new experiences with old self-concepts. But life does not work that way. The old identity always recreates the old reality. This is why becoming matters more than getting. Because if you become the person first, the experience follows naturally. But if you chase the experience without becoming the person, the experience remains unstable. This explains why some people receive exactly what they wanted only to lose it again. The outer world changed. The inner world did not. So the old story eventually returned. But you are doing something different now. You are changing the story itself. You are changing the one who experiences reality. And when the experiencer changes, everything changes. Imagine a person who genuinely believes they are unforgettable, not arrogantly, not boastfully, simply naturally. Would they spend hours wondering whether someone remembers them? No.